Although I am involved with CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada, the views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the participants and do not reflect those of CADAC. And now, cue the music.
This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
Hey there, it's Andre here with another short for the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, the podcast for the high-achieving ADHD entrepreneur. This episode is brought to you by CADAC, the Center of ADHD Awareness Canada. You can get more information and you can donate at www.cadddac.ca. This week was part 2 of my discussion with Chuck Englefield about his depression. Again, I'm very fortunate to have this conversation with Chuck. I know you, the listener, have benefited a lot and gained a lot of awareness and insight on it from a first-hand point of view here. But this part 2 here, this week, there's 2 things that he said that really piqued my interest and I want to expand on. 1, depression moods are like waves. They come and go. And 2, you don't choose the moods choose you. And before I go too far into this, I just want to point out to everyone to note, I'm not a trained doctor or therapist. The following are my personal observations of my experience and my understanding of the research I've done over the last many years. So these are personal observations and experiences. So a few weeks ago, I was at a doctors and research conference on ADHD, and one of the doctors there said that ADHD emotional responses are actually triggered. They don't just show up. And that can include what they call depressive responses. And I think as an ADHD person, I don't have to explain too much on that, these depressive responses. And so when I heard that, then immediately a conversation I had with my psychiatrist popped in my mind. He explained to me that people with ADHD are depressive, not necessarily in depression, but are depressive. But the length of time in that depressive state are immediate and short term compared to people with depression. And like Chuck explained, that the depression moods are like waves. It comes and goes and you have no control over it. And when he said that hit me. I have experienced depression. I was in bed for a whole week. Then the following week, I just stayed home and just read and sat on my couch in my office and just read. And I did not care going to work. I did not care if my company failed. I didn't even care about my business partner. I disengaged from the world, my family, my friends, and my company. And like Chuck said, there was hopelessness and there was no energy or interest. And was meaningless. So when he used those words, it hit me. So I have experienced this depression state, and he's right. I didn't choose it. It chose me. And excuse me. I'm feeling what I felt through back then, and it's not something I want to go through again. But on the flip side, I do regularly get into depressive moods that are immediate, intense, and shorter because it's an ADHD thing. I would say they're not waves. They're more like sharp peaks, sharp highs, sharp lows, but they're not like a wave where it's a continuous frequency where there's a pattern to it. These could be varying patterns and you can't anticipate them. But the other thing too I have noticed is that the ADHD depressive moods or depressive states, I like to say, are triggered. The second thing that Chuck said is that the depressive moods choose you. And my personal observation is my ADHD depressive moods don't choose me. They're actually triggered by something. It could be RSD, rejection sensitivity dysphoria, or it could be some perceived slight from someone, or just an immediate reaction to a trigger that gets me into a depressive mood. And at the same time, this depressive mood can be half an hour, 5 minutes, It could go up to a day or 2 days, depending how severe the trigger was, or not how severe the trigger, how severe my reaction to the trigger was. But my point is, the ADHD depressive mood, in my observation, is that they are triggered by an event, by something. While what I'm understanding from Chuck and my experiences is that the depression moods choose you, and there's no rhyme or reason. Depression moods, I don't believe, are triggered. They just get there. And to me, that's a big difference. So now that I've had that understanding, now I don't consider, and that's why I think ADHD gets misunderstood a lot as depression, because there's a lot of depressive states, but those are triggered. So they're trying to treat the depression that doesn't need a trigger, but that chooses you. And that's why it doesn't work, or the therapy doesn't work if you're dealing for depression when it's actually an ADHD depressive state. And if you just change the lens on that and we treat the ADHD, then the depression disappears, or it's more manageable because we understand it as depressive states. So I don't know if this makes sense to you or helps you in any way. But again, I'm not a trained professional doctor or psychotherapist. And these are my personal observations based on the conversation I had with Chuck and some of the research I've been doing and some of the insights I've had from doctors at some conferences. And I think that's where the difference is between ADHD and depression. In depression, the moods choose you. They are like a wave. They come and go. They grab you, and there's hopelessness. While the ADHD depressive states, as I'm kind of coining the term here, are triggered. They don't choose you. They are triggered by something, and the intensity is immediate. The length of time is a lot shorter than depression. Could be a few minutes, could be a few hours, could be a day or two, but you get out of it. And since the ADHD brain intensely feels emotions, so our depressive moods feel sadder and more intense, but it's short term. While what I'm understanding from Chuck and my experience is when you're depressed and then a depression, it doesn't kind of go away. It's immense and it's long, and it's not fun. So again, based on last week's short, please get help. There's nothing wrong with getting help. You have to take your mental health as your first priority. Your brain controls your physical body. If your brain's not functioning properly due to mental health issues, it's not functioning your body properly. So doing more exercise than that is not going to necessarily fix your mental health issues or fix your physical body if your brain is not working efficiently and properly. So thanks again for listening, and I'd like to hear your insights on this and what your thoughts are. You can send me an email at Andre@AndreB. Greatly appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.